people are getting fatigued by the MCU more so than even the DCU. Now, is this because of this spamming of a ton of material, a ton of movies, a ton of TV shows, or does it actually speak on the quality of what is being put out there? Let's go ahead and dive into the video. So this comes to us from MCU The Direct. They said new data has revealed that 36% of Marvel fans are fatigued by the number of new movies and TV releases in a year versus 20% of DC fans who feel this way about DC on-screen releases. Full details. Now, obviously, Marvel releases more stuff than DC does in terms of cinematic universe, and that does play some sort of role in it. But I think that the biggest issue here is the quality of what's being put out more so than the quantity. Because if the quantity, if they dropped a lot of amazing stuff, let's think of a lot of things that are up there on par with like Winter Soldier, for example, or Infinity War. If we were getting a lot of that in a year, hey, those are really great pieces of work. So we'd all be eating good, essentially. But that's not the case. And I think that what they're doing is, because the quantity is a lot higher, we are seeing a huge decline in quality. And a big, huge part of that is for political reasons and to insert a message. And that's that. Because we're seeing hijacking of characters that we adore and love. Okay, so for example, when you look at even all these three characters here, okay? Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, even them, they have been hijacked in their own franchises by female counterparts, essentially. You know, we have cool female characters that they can really play on, but to hijack existing franchises instead of just giving fans what they want. You know, let's look at Thor, for example. Instead of hijacking Thor's franchise with, oh, She-Thor, and let's make this Thor movie a woman power movie and kind of outshine Thor in his own movie. That's not giving the fans what they want. If fans are going to watch a Thor movie, then chances are they want to see Thor, and they want to see the story based around Thor. So what this does is not only create fatigue in the fact that, hey, why would I want to go watch this movie of this character? Look at Doctor Strange, for example, in the Multiverse of Madness. Was incredibly disappointing. Doctor Strange being my favorite of the MCU lineup. So, of course, for me, I was like, hey, I loved the first Doctor Strange movie. It's my favorite. One of my favorites of the MCU. So then I'm like, oh, of course I'm going to want to see his movie again. And then watch that movie and watch him get just completely overshadowed in the movie. It just wasn't a fun time, and the writing was awful, and so on and so forth. And so that's what's happening, is we're not seeing a good quality of this stuff. Same goes with DC as well. It's not like DC has been providing a bunch of amazing stuff either. Granted, I did really like The Batman, but I think they're both guilty of this in a lot of ways. But this goes for not just the cinematic universes, it also applies to the comics themselves and what they've been releasing. And there's a reason why we've seen poor comic book sales, but look at manga, which continues to succeed. And the reason, one big reason why, is because the quality and the storytelling and the hijacking of existing superheroes being replaced or being outshined by mostly lately female counterparts who are kind of ripoffs of them, but they have to be better. You know, that's where we've been. And I'm a woman who, I love superheroes. I love superhero movies, and comic books are fun and all that. I'm into that. And what makes me question is, who are they even doing this crap for? Because it's like, you know, maybe in the back of their minds, they're thinking, we want more women involved, right? We want to appeal to the female fans of Marvel or DC or whatever. So because of that, you know, let's make a rip-off version of Iron Man, okay? Ironheart. Let's a girl Iron Man. There you go. That's going to make the women happy. Newsflash, it doesn't. Okay? When you look at these female spin-offs of these characters, even look at someone like She-Hulk. Who supports She-Hulk? Men! Okay? When it comes to superhero franchises in general, I mean, they're mostly being carried by men for the most part in general. That's just how it is. So when you create a spin-off and when you're trying to appeal to women, it's not even necessarily working, because these female inferior versions of said original characters are still the only reason why they're even still maintaining anything is because of the male viewership, which is hilarious, and that's who they want to knock on all the time. Look at She-Hulk, the TV show. I have plenty of videos on that. So yeah, superhero fatigue could become a problem. Are people really getting tired of superheroes? And this is what's funny to me, is I feel like what the message are trying to share here and what DC and Marvel and so on and so forth are using as an excuse for a lot of stuff are, oh, well, people are just tired of superheroes because there's a lot of them and we've been pushing this a lot. And I'm not saying there's not any truth to that, because yeah, okay, maybe people are ready for some more stuff. Not every, there's a lot of superhero stuff, but I think the bigger problem at hand here is that said superhero properties are just not being handled well. And because of the quality of writers that we have in general in American entertainment, when it comes to books, cartoons, TV shows, movies, all that, there's been a huge decline in the quality of writers. And a lot of that is because Hollywood and the comic book industry, they're hiring people based on woke politics more so than, hey, can these people actually write interesting and gripping stories? And what happens is that you've got comic books talking about climate change now. Superheroes, Superman is protesting climate change. Here's a superhero who's so far bigger than, when it comes to superheroes in general, they are bigger than what the real world is like, right? Okay. So superheroes like Superman are big enough to actually make a change on climate change. Okay. I'm not even going to get started on the whole climate change argument in general. I'll just leave it. But I'm just saying is that a lot of these things that, these comic books are focusing on, things like that. Okay, when you have a big superhero like Superman who can actually make a difference in that, it makes no sense why he would be protesting, holding a sign. It's like that one panel of the old comic where Superman and some other superheroes were holding onto each other's hands to help somebody cross the river. And it's like the funniest thing in the world, because all Superman had to do was fly over there and pick that person up and not go through all those extra measures. But anyway, yeah, so you have these writers who are more interested in either pushing a message about that sort of thing or even about sexuality. That seems to be a huge trending topic in comic books nowadays. And when I think about, being younger, especially, and when I was like really into comic book characters or whatever, what is it that I really liked about them, right? The love story side of things was always either it was never front of mind when it comes to these characters, because it's like, hey, we're watching superheroes because we want to see them do superhero things. And while there are certain instances that a romance story or a love story can play into that, let's look at Peter Parker, for example. A big part of his story is that balance between, hey, I need to be Spider-Man and save the world, but, I want to have a love life as well. I want to love, I want to, and trying to balance that. And that he was plagued with that, because it was like, let's look at Mary Jane, for example. He wanted a relationship with Mary Jane and he cared about Mary Jane, but being a superhero was counterintuitive to what his heart wanted in that. And because, he put her in danger. Just being Spider-Man puts anybody that he loves in danger. And so it was just that, that's sad. That added a dynamic to the story, right? Because it was just sad. It was like, man, so the right thing to do here is he wants to help people and he wants to be Spider-Man and he wants to make the world a better place. But in doing so, he's suffering in his personal life. And it's a sad twist to everything, and it adds to it. But what people have done with recent comics with that, and instead of adding the romance, adding to the story, they're building a story around the romance now with certain characters, like the gay Superman, for example, where it feels more like they are concerned more about the sexuality of the character and building the story based around his sexuality instead of allowing whatever romantic interest that he may have had to actually play a bigger role in the story itself and to have a bigger story and that just be a side part of it. But as it is right now, with that line of comics, which I made a video about that as well, is it just seems the in your face stuff and everything I've seen on it, and the most interesting plot points I've seen on it was the protesting climate change and their gay relationship. That seems to be the forefront, bigger focus on what's going on. Now, I don't even I'm not even clued in on any of the details beyond that because that's all that people are tweeting about. That's all that people are focused on with those stories. And that's where the problem lies here, is that these superhero properties are now more concerned about pushing a message instead of an interesting story and allowing any other elements of that to play as a side role in the story. They're more concerned about identity, and sometimes that involves inserting themselves into said characters, making characters try to look like them. Let's look at this Starfire's daughter, okay? Need I say more? They care more about inserting themselves because there is this widespread narcissism in the world, and people are pushing that you have to be represented or you can't enjoy something. That you have to see somebody look like you, or you have to see somebody with the same attractions as you, or you have to see somebody who has your skin color, this, that, or the other. And what that is people are seeking validation for their own identity in everything they consume. And if they aren't receiving the validation that they want, then they can't enjoy it. Most people, let's be real, outside of like the blue-haired Twitterverse, most people don't give a crap, okay? There is so much to the world beyond us. Not everything needs to be about us, for real. Life is a lot more enjoyable when you don't make everything about you. And I'm saying this rhetorically, including myself in this. Okay? I find that the more I focus on myself, and this is such the way the world is right now, is it pushes everybody. How many times a year? Just focus on yourself. Look out for number one. And there is some degree of truth in that you don't want people to walk all over you. You don't want people to use you, so on and so forth. You don't want to, live your whole life being that yes man or yes woman and sacrificing all of your needs just for other people. But that said, there is an important element to life is looking at the world beyond just yourself. And to not be a selfish person. You'll actually live a healthier and happier life if you're not selfish, point blank. And so what all this representation stuff preaches, what all this treat yourself preaches, what all this I need validation in everything I consume and from everybody and everything, and this obsession with personal identity is breeding a narcissistic selfishness widespread in society. And it's a problem. Now let's look at, Japanese media. Let's look at anime. Let's look at manga, and you see how there is a success in that, and that people love to see these things. And when it comes to anime and manga, most people aren't even really represented because most characters are Japanese and said thing. But this is the thing about it, is that most people don't care. Most people don't have to see themselves represented. Like, how many black dudes do you know that love freaking Goku? I mean, come on. It's because they're able to enjoy a character and see a character beyond themselves and someone that they are inspired by and that they look up to, instead of just insisting that every character has to be exactly like them. Maybe it's more fun to look at a character and us want to emulate said character instead of wanting said character to emulate us. But we're in a selfish society right now. But the one reason why anime and manga, I believe, is successful is because they don't have that same obsession with selfishness. Let's look at Japanese culture in general. A lot of it, humility is pushed a lot more, and to not be a selfish person and to not self-obsess. And so these stories that are based around these anime and manga and all that are so far beyond just the character's identity, just who the character is. And you see a lot of main characters in said properties either learn or already are a lot more humble and focused on something outside of themselves. Okay? Now, of course, you have your anti-heroes and stuff like that, and that's fun. Not every character has to be a good character. It's fun to watch bad characters as well, or selfish characters as well. But I think in terms of being the viewer and being the real person here consuming said entertainment, then yeah, you're going to enjoy it a lot more if you can look at it outside of yourself. And if you can look at life outside of yourself in general, and if we can look at how we can make society a better place, outside of ourselves. Maybe care about your fellow man, love your neighbor, that sort of thing. Because when everybody is so obsessed about themselves, then you're never going to make everybody happy. And that's why one big reason why I'm against all of this representation matters agenda that is going on everywhere. Like crazy, and that is running rampant. You're never going to make everybody happy because you can never truly represent everybody. And that's okay, because personally, I would rather watch somebody on the big screen that isn't me. If I want to look at me, I'll look in a mirror, but that sounds like a pretty boring life to just only obsess about myself. So, yeah. I kind of like this video kind of took a turn here, but ultimately I think the root of the issue here with what's going on with the MCU, DCU, even the comics, all that, is that this obsession with self. Okay? There's a reason why I think that, myself, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. One big thing that's pushed in the Bible a lot is humility, and to not be a selfish person. And that's a good thing. That's a good quality. And I'm finding that society and Hollywood in general, Hollywood and society in general, I should say, one thing that the things that they keep pushing are almost in direct contradiction to what the Bible teaches in almost all things. And that's one thing that has strengthened my faith even more, is because I'm making that connection. I've been making that connection, and I'm like, wait a minute. What is society constantly teaching us? To be self-obsessed, okay? To put ourselves above everybody else, okay? It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. It's okay. Beauty in all sizes. It's okay to be huge and fat. That's totally fine. Things like that. Things that are detrimental to our health. They're telling us to go, oh, it's okay to be promiscuous. It's okay to do this, that, and the other, that are hurting our health. Things that we should be able to say, hey, you know what? It's not healthy to be fat. Hey, it's not healthy to be promiscuous. It's not healthy to be a hoe. All right? This is common sense stuff, and we should be allowed to say it. Does that mean that we shouldn't love people who are fat? No. Does that mean we shouldn't love people who are a hoe? No. You might not want to be too close to people who would be a bad influence in your life or something. But ultimately, hey, you can still love people and acknowledge that, hey, you know what they're doing might not be very healthy. And I think that we all have certain things that we do that are not healthy, and it's important to reflect on said things. But the problem here is when these things are being glorified, and you are seeing it glorified a lot, and you're seeing people on Twitter activists try to push to have these things glorified even more. So enough is enough. I'm sick of it. And I think that's one reason why there is a lot of issues and why there is a failure, a downward spiral that has been occurring, is because ultimately when you push and when you are an activist toward values that are harmful to society, that's going to crash and burn. That's going to crumble. Okay? morals are not entirely subjective. Okay? And whenever this woke religion that has created their own religion and has changed the game and has changed the rules and have built their own version of morality, there's a reason why it doesn't have legs to stand on. All right. So anyway, there you have it for today's video. I went on a different tangent there, but I'm curious what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will catch you next time. In the meantime, go boom.